world traveler joining us for a special edition of SkyWatch TV today. Welcome, I'm Derek Gilbert, and joining us in studio is the director and expedition leader for Gen 6 Productions, the True Legends documentary series. You heard him talk about episode 1, Technology of the Fallen. He joins us now with a tease for the episode that they are working on now. It's our honor to welcome Timothy Alberino back to SkyWatch TV. Tim, it's good to see you again.
Thank you for having me back.
So where are some of the places that you have traveled chasing down video for this next documentary?
Well, as you know, in the first episode, we were in Peru and Bolivia. So in episode 2, we still have some more Peru content, but we also went to Rome, specifically to the Vatican, to the island of Malta, and to the island of Sardinia. And we've got some really incredible stuff coming in the next 2 episodes. So we've shot 2 episodes worth of content over the last couple of months.
So you're working more on editing right now?
We're editing. Episode 2 is now in production, and in a couple of months we expect it to be to go live, basically.
Now, we know about some of the big megalithic structures in Peru and Bolivia, Ecuador, and the technology that you talked about last time. I'm just trying to think in my mind, what are the common threads that tie together the Vatican, Malta, Sardinia, and the places that you've been?
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, obviously there's a network of megaliths, megalithic constructions, Cyclopean edifices all around the world.
Cyclopean?
Cyclopean, that's the technical term that the megaliths are given. That comes from the Greeks. The Greeks believe that the Cyclops were responsible for the megalithic constructions, that was their technology, and so therefore we call it Cyclopean building technique or Cyclopean edifices. And there's a vast network of them all around the world, basically on every continent. And so our desire was to go and visit some of these locations, some of the more impressive ones, and investigate not only, some of the finer details, the technology that might have been involved in the building, the construction of these very impressive edifices, but also the cover-up behind the true story, the true origin of where they come from, and more importantly, who built them. There is a vast cover-up involved in the prehistory of this planet, involving the megaliths and involving their builders. And their builders, we don't believe, and neither do the cultures, the ancient cultures where these megaliths were built, believe that they were built by human hands. We believe that these are constructions that were devised, that were built by hybrids that come from the pre-flood world, from the Genesis 6 narrative. And there's a difference between, many people are familiar with the biblical account of giants post-flood, after the flood. So there's a difference between the giants after the flood and the giants before the flood. There's a what we call a pre-flood reality and a post-flood reality. The giants that came after the flood, in our opinion, were not the builders of the megaliths. Those were descendants of the, you can say, species or races of entities and giants that existed in the pre-flood world. And the post-flood giants obviously were large. They were large individuals, usually anywhere from 9 to 12 to 15 feet tall, whereas the pre-flood giants were anywhere from 15 to 30 plus feet tall. So we're always trying to put the puzzle pieces together in terms of what's pre-flood, what might be the constructions that were built by the hybrids in the world before the flood of Noah. But then you have a bunch of interesting pieces and parts that are involved, such as these races with the elongated skulls, which is sort of a curveball when you start getting around these megaliths. You always, most of the time, I mean, so far I've found on every occasion that those elongated skulls have been discovered, associated with megaliths, even on the island of Malta, in the hypogeum, which we went and visited the famous hypogeum, the underground, basically the underground temple complex, in which elongated skulls were discovered and later secreted away somewhere. So it's about a cover-up. It's about not just investigating megaliths. It's much more than that. It's about the cover-up. Why is it being covered up? Why is the history of the pre-flood world being covered up? And it's about the builders of the megaliths. Who were they? and what was the origin of that race. Obviously, we come from a biblical perspective, but we're trying to put the pieces together for people.
Now, when you were here before with Steve Quayle, we talked a bit about, and you talked with Tom Horn a bit about the role of the Vatican and some of the evidence you uncovered in South America for their participation in this cover-up. Was that part of what we'll see in episodes 2 and 3 forthcoming? And what evidence have you discovered? Or if you just want to revisit, for people who may not have seen those previous interviews, what did you find in South America about the Vatican's participation in the cover-up?
Well, we're learning that all roads lead to Rome. That old adage that is true, especially when you deal with the cover-up of the pre-flood world. So in episode 1, we were able to prove via historical documents that we translated with the help of some professors in Peru concerning the existence of giants that the Vatican was well aware of, that the Spanish priests and conquistadors were encountering their bodies, their bones, their mummified bodies. And we're talking really huge guys, 15 feet plus, in some cases up to 30 feet tall, giants that once existed, once lived in Peru, in the lands of Peru. Let's say in the area that once belonged to the Inca Empire. And so we know, because of these historical documents, we know that the priests were aware of the existence of giants, that they were in fact confiscating their bones and burning their bodies because the natives were worshiping them. And the priests and the natives, the Inca and the other natives and the Catholic priests all knew that the megaliths in Peru and Bolivia and throughout South America belong to the age before the flood, and in many cases were very likely built by a race of giants. This was both the understanding of the natives and the evaluation of the chroniclers and priests that came with the conquistadors. So the question then becomes, well, the historical documents demonstrate that giants existed, that indeed the bones of giants were discovered in Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, and so forth. Where did they go? Why did they disappear? Why were the historical documents buried? Why wasn't it brought to light that, hey, not only were the priests that were extirpating idolatry after the eradication of the Incan Empire, not only were they encountering little idols that were being worshipped by the natives, and they were trying to eradicate the pagan religion of the natives, they were also encountering the bodies and bones of giants, which were also being enshrined and worshipped by the natives. And so they were confiscated in some cases, and they even ended up in the hands of the Spanish Inquisition. So we have reason to believe, and I think we can assume that some of those bones, some of those remains eventually made their way to Rome. And that's part of why we went to Rome. But we also know that the Vatican is, at this present time, especially the Jesuit order, is beginning to prepare definitely the church, definitely the Catholic Church, the members of the Catholic Church, but in a sense, they're beginning to prepare even the scientific community for the revelation that we're not alone in the universe, for the revelation that our progenitors came from elsewhere in the universe. There's a lot going on with Mars right now, and discoveries being made of water on Mars and so forth, and obviously the Mount Graham situation, which Tom Horn went and investigated, and we uncovered some more information concerning Mount Graham. In fact, we were able to shoot at least a little bit of footage inside of the Jesuit headquarters at the Vatican. And we weren't necessarily allowed to do that, but we did.
Very interesting. Now, one of the big questions, of course, is where is the physical evidence of giants? We'll talk about that in our conversation tomorrow with Timothy Alberino. This is all part of a long war, a battle for God's holy mountain, Mount Zion. That is the ultimate prize. And we'll talk about that with Dr. Michael Heiser tomorrow night on SkyWatch TV on the Christian Television Network. His new book, The Unseen Realm, is a must for your reference library. SkyWatch TV airs at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's UTC-5 on the Christian Television Network, DirecTV Channel 376, Dish Network Channel 267, the Glory Star Satellite Channel 117. Also streams live to the internet at the Christian Television Network's website, ctnonline.com. Don't miss it. Tomorrow, another conversation with Timothy Alberino. Until then, thanks for watching. As we keep watch, I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.